How's it going, cinephiles? Welcome back to Couch Kernels. So, as prevalent as it is, I still enjoy myself some post-apocalyptic media. Movies, comic books, TV shows, novels, I like it all. It doesn't even matter what kind of apocalypse, really. I really don't care what caused the apocalypse. I'm probably interested whether it be war, disease, or some other option that Hollywood hasn't done to death. I've read several of the Walking Dead novels, watched a lot of the show, I'm a bit behind, and read all of the comic books. I like things like the Book of Eli. In short, apocalypse fiction is good with me. Now, I mentioned before that one of the types of apocalypses that Hollywood has done to death is the kind brought on by war. And today, we're going to talk about a movie where the apocalypse happened not because of nuclear war, but chemical war. I won't blame you guys if you haven't heard of this one, but today we're talking about Air. Air is an independent movie starring big names, but the catch is that the cast consists of a total of 3 people according to the credits, only 2 of which actually influence the events of the movie. Now, maybe you saw on that cover the words, "From the creator of The Walking Dead," but I want to mention that that is extremely misleading. An advertising trick. Yes, Robert Kirkman was involved in the movie, but "from" suggests he wrote it or something. No. He has a producer credit here. That's it. But I digress. Let's talk about our criteria. Today we're talking about plot and writing, acting, dialogue, soundtrack, and visuals. So in this one, as I said, there has been a chemical war that has caused the apocalypse. As a result of all the chemical weapons, the world is dangerously short on breathable air.
You think that's air you're breathing now?
In one of the bunkers that we are told were set up to protect the world's best and brightest, 2 men named Bauer and Cartwright
Cartwright!
I can't have popcorn for dinner!
Cartwright!
wake up once every 6 months from their hibernation pods to spend 2 hours repairing and otherwise maintaining the bunker. We see them going through the whole routine of it all, doing all the repair work that needs to be done, as well as making sure that nothing else could potentially break down in the next 6 months. We also learn some about the characters, including Bauer's habit of enjoying the magazines and the shelter a couple of times each cycle. And the fact that Cartwright is seeing visions of a woman. One of these visions keeps Cartwright from noticing a fault in his own pod, which, while he has a conversation with the woman, catches fire and is destroyed despite his and Bauer's best efforts. As the air is shut off at the end of their 2-hour work period, the 2 are then forced to act quickly, trying to find replacement parts for the pod, so that both of them can return safely to sleep. They find the parts and repair the pod with time to spare, and Bauer climbs in for them to test it. He notes that it sounds like there's a leak.
There's a leak in the boat!
And Cartwright begins searching for it. But then the plastic of the pod collapses on Bauer, suffocating him. Cartwright cuts it open and resuscitates Bauer, but now they need parts again. And they are out of time. I enjoy the idea here, but like I said, I like post-apocalypse stuff. I feel like they can have a kernel here, though. Now, how are the performances here? Well, again, there are only 3 actors credited, and only 2 of them really have any effect on the events of the movie. So we'll talk about those 2. In this one, we have Norman Reedus as Bauer, and Jaimin Hansu as Cartwright. Norman Reedus actually gives a good performance here, rather than many of his one-note characters of late, playing a jaded but not unhappy man. And Hansu, for once, gets a role that isn't just supporting, delivering a believable performance as a claustrophobe who's aching for more companionship and an end to the fear.
I can smell fear just by looking at you.
So, being that there's really only 2 people to talk about and they both perform well, I think we can give them a kernel here. There are a few lines worth talking about. Just before his pod catches fire, Cartwright is told by the woman that it's safe and replies, "That's what I tell myself every time. My brain knows it, but my body tells me that I'm about to climb into a high-tech coffin."
We needed a coffin? A treat?
A little while later, Bauer injures one of his hands and asks Cartwright, "How am I supposed to take care of myself now?" And Cartwright replies, "Use the other hand," prompting Bauer's response of, What if I need 2 hands? And both men laugh. Later on, when exploring options of how the both of them might be able to sleep with the limited time left, Bauer makes a suggestion that Cartwright is uncomfortable with, and Bauer states, "It's not murder, it's survival." This brings our total on memorable lines to 3, which sadly isn't enough to award them a kernel here. I'm not going to waste much time talking about the soundtrack here. Norman Reedus sings a little bit of "I Fought the Law" as he walks around doing his stuff, but otherwise the score is very basic and forgettable. That's all I got for you.
What do you want from me? What do you want from me?
No kernel here. Let's talk about how this thing looks. The aesthetic is interesting, with some high-ish tech stuff used for the hibernation pods, but the bunker they are in is a disused military silo with 1960s or 70s computer hardware. Like the bunker in Supernatural, or something they might have used to play Space War in 1962.
Read a book.
At one point, we see some of the chemical materials floating around in the air, but it's a good thing we're told that's what it is, because to me, as a Canadian, it just looks like snow. Around the time we're seeing the chemical materials, we also see several military corpses laying around, which may be a little on the nose, but does still help to sell the lore of the movie. For the overall look here, I think we can give them a kernel. Now let's tip out our bucket and see what we have. We have 3 kernels. I like the movie, but it's not one I'd watch very often. Kinda like when I've mostly forgotten it sort of thing. Critics and audiences didn't care for it.
I don't like that.
But I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as they say. Anyway, let's move on to Name That Frame. First, let's reveal the answer to the round from my Home Alone 4 and Phantom of the Opera videos. That movie was 10 Things I Hate About You. Did you get it? Shout out to those who did. Now, let's start our next round. If you look at my screen, we have a still for a new movie or TV show. Know what it is? Comment below. You have a few videos to come up with the answer. And if you have any other comments, questions, or suggestions, feel free to leave those down there too. I try to answer everything. That's it for me though, but I'll be back soon with another movie. Bye!